Game Boy, PSP. Who are you? I'm you, but stronger. Alright, well, this is a little different from what I usually do, but today I'm going to be showing you how to... I'll turn this off for now. I'm going to be showing you how to resell a PSP 2000 and 3000 battery. Yeah, as you can see, it has cracked and it's bulging. Mucho no bueno. So, I bought a new battery cell to replace the old swollen one that's inside here. This is a Eternity 1200 milliamp. Hopefully you guys can see that. And it just comes with that. None really on that. But yeah, so basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cracking this battery pack open, and we're going to be taking or desoldering or snipping whatever the battery cell that was originally in here, and that's swollen, with this brand new one from Eternity. Very cool, very cool. So first things first, I want to say I'm not a professional modder or a soldering master or soldering, whatever you call it. I'm a beginner, and I'm making a tutorial for other beginners because this mod is relatively simple, but you know, we're working with batteries here. It can be pretty dangerous. So again, I'm not a professional, so if you see I'm doing something wrong or something dangerous, don't hesitate to leave a comment or whatever. You know, tell me that I'm doing something wrong. You know, I'm always open to learning how to solder or mod, you know, better. There's not a lot of information about this quote-unquote mod going around. There's only a couple Reddit posts, pretty vague, doesn't really go super into detail, and the single YouTube video I found that actually demonstrated how to do this was in Turkish and very low quality. So yeah, hopefully this tutorial will help you replace the battery, because there's not a lot of good aftermarket batteries out there. Most aftermarket batteries you'll find for sale online are mislabeled. Most of the mislabeled batteries claim to have 2400 milliamp hours or 3600 milliamp hours, when it's not physically possible to have a battery cell of that size fitting into the footprint of a PSP battery. Now, that's not to say all aftermarket batteries are bad. There are some good ones. For example, EBL recently released a aftermarket battery for the PSP 2000 and 3000, and they sell it on eBay and Amazon. Another battery would be Cameron Sino, I don't know how you pronounce it. Instant has mixed reviews. Now, as you can see in the video here, I have an EBL, and I'll be putting out a video later comparing the runtime of the EBL versus the reselled battery. Right, so as we go through this mod, I'm going to be having a timer here. Just timer here, just so you have a general idea of how long this mod will take you. Timestamps will also be in the description, so you can just skip to that. Okay, so let's go over the prerequisites. So first thing you'll want is a good soldering iron. If I'm careful, I can bring what I'm going to be using over. This is a Weller WLC 100. And I got it for $50 US on Amazon. Not bad, not a bad deal. You can probably get a cheaper or a around the same price, you know, a similar soldering iron. Next thing you'll want is a brand new battery cell. So the PSP 2000 3000 uses a 1200 milliamp hour battery. As you can see, it's a 603 450. I think I can show you. Yeah, if I peel the sticker back, hopefully it's on this side. Yeah. So you don't have to get it from Eternity if you can't. I just got a Eternity one because, you know, Hobby Kings ships within the US and it's pretty cheap, only $8 for shipping. You know, for batteries, that's pretty cheap. And you know, they're a well-known brand, but if you can't get the specific Eternity one, don't worry, you just need a 603 450. All right, next you want is some wires. We're just gonna be reusing the wires that come with the battery. All right. In order to open this battery pack, we're gonna need something to use as kind of a chisel. So I have a hammer, and I have various items. I have a bunch of plastic picks, I have a guitar pick, and I have, you know, if all else fails, I'll just use a screwdriver. Not really recommended, especially because we're in an enclosed area. If you're gonna use a screwdriver or something metal, I advise you to do it outside, because if you puncture the battery cell, you'll start a fire. but I'm willing to take that risk because I can't really film outside that well. And then we'll need flush cutters. So as I said, we'll need flush cutters. Next is some Kapton tape. I have this actual Kapton tape, or polyamide. I don't even know what that means, but yes, this actual Kapton tape, I think, because it's a brand or trademark, whatever. Yeah, so this is the legit stuff. Because I'm baller like that. No, it was like $2 more than the generic brand. So, you know, buy nice or buy twice. Okay. I think that about covers it. So, soldering, better cell, wires, chisel, flush cutters, Kapton tape. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Step 1, arguably the hardest part, actually getting this open. Saw a bunch of ways online, but they say what you have to do is you have to break the little plastic seam right here. I don't think these are going to do it, but you can always start crappy and then work your way up. So what I'm doing is I'm placing the pick into the plastic seam, and I'm just tapping away with the mallet. I kind of want to start on here because it looks like it's kind of separating a little bit more. If you'll focus, it's separating more than the other sides, but I'm also kind of scared because this looks like where the battery expansion is kind of happening. Yeah, you can see a bit, so I guess you just have to be careful. Okay, so we got our, okay, so good news, we got a little corner in. Ooh, okay, as you can see, slowly but surely we're opening it up. Ooh, crickety crack, you like to hear that noise. Okay, so we did get one side partially open. Remember, it's not a race. You're not trying to like speed run, this mod. So take your time. Don't be afraid to, stop, go back, check your stuff, and try again. Maybe you can try a different angle, like at the bottom. Okay, maybe not the bottom, because this is actually because this makes it kind of hard. Open. Ooh. Okay. Yeah. So be careful. I accidentally just cracked this. Oh, look, you can see the PCB. Very cool. Courtesy if I fix it. If you've ever opened up an iPhone before, like to replace the screen or the battery, this kind of feels like it, but except you can't really use heat to help you get into it. Yeah, you can see. Okay, so I managed to crack it even more, but progress. We are getting closer and closer to opening the right side. Ooh, okay, I use my fingernail. We like to hear those cracks. So that means that's the plastic welding or whatever the hell they use to keep these shells closed, cracking. The seals are cracking. And soon we shall release the Kraken. The Kraken being this fucking battery. That's not good though. Oh! Ooh, okay, okay. We are making progress. So we have gotten 2 sides open. And as we watch my genius attempts to get the battery shell open, I figure I might as well go over what tools I found best to open this battery shell. It's what you're seeing in this video right now. It's basically a pretty thick plastic guitar pick and a rubber mallet, hammer, something like that. And that's really all you need. You don't really need all these screwdrivers. The plastic picks are helpful, but they're not 100% needed. You can just do all this with just the guitar pick. And I have an iFixit one, as you can see here. And basically the best method I found was just to put the pick in the seam and hit it with the hammer, just so it breaks the plastic welds. Nothing much more to it than that. As you can see, I only have that top weld left. Now, as tempting as it might be, don't just straight rip it off like the Hulk. The plastic shell is really brittle, or at least it was on mine, and the weld is way stronger than the plastic, so if you yank it off, you might break the battery shell beyond repair, and you might not be able to reuse it. Instead, just keep working to separate it like you did on the previous 3 sides. I kind of want to just try to like hit it with a hammer again, but I'm scared it's gonna crack the. I'm scared I'm gonna break the plastic. Because the thing's barely hanging on by a thread. It's so cracked. Oh my god, it's like it's paper thin. So just gotta be careful. Ooh, it's already cracking. Okay. And again, if you've got any better ideas how to open this damn thing, feel free to leave a comment. Because God knows this shit is a fucking pain in the ass. And I will happily take any method other than just going monkey with a fucking hammer on it. Ooh. Monkey hit thing. Alright. Okay, so we're starting to see a little crack. That's good. Because once we get that crack open, we're basically done. And we're only 23 minutes. Only 23 minutes. Oh, okay. Yes. Yes! There you go. And that's how you take the casing off. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we want to take out this little plastic shield that separates the PCB and the battery. As you can see, it's a nice little pillow boy. You just want to carefully take it out. It's going to be pretty stuck in there though. Is it double-sided taped in? I'm not sure. Okay, so you probably don't want to do this with a sharp tool, so I'm just gonna use my fingernails because, you know, we can feel. See, there's a little gap at the edge right here. There's a little gap. You can just slide your finger in there, run it around. You know, like what we did for, basically what we did for the plastic casing. We run it around. Oh, fuck. Yeah, we're good. Run it around and try to just pop it out. You know, you don't really want to force it out. Because if you force it out, you might puncture it. And again, it's a pillow boy, so bad idea. However, this thing is very stubborn and it does not want to come out. If you don't want to go through the pain of this, you can just lift up one side and then just squirt a bunch of isopropyl alcohol in there to basically wear out the adhesive. So now we have the PCB that we want to use, and we need to get rid of this little bloated ass battery. Now we got to replace this thing with this thing. And, you know, just for a little comparison's sake, so why don't we just take a look at them. Okay, so put these aside. Put your shell aside for now. So I'm going to turn on my soldering iron. I'm going to set it to around 450. You probably set it a little lower if you want. And I'm just going to leave that to heat up. And I'm going to put away my stuff, my tools that I don't need anymore. With our soldering iron heating up, we're going to disconnect the PCB from the battery, this bloated ass battery. You want to snip off the metal tabs that connect the battery cell to the PCB closest to the battery end, because we're not going to be using this anymore. And, you know, more length on here, the better. So you could do this with a soldering iron. You could just desolder the metal tabs from the battery, and that'd be way cleaner, but I tried it, it didn't work for me. I couldn't, or at least I couldn't get it to desolder, so it's the easiest way for me. All right, so as I said, we are going to be cutting closest to the battery, but you don't actually want to cut into it, so be careful. So, okay, so as I show you, here is where the battery is. Ka-chunk. Okay, and then one more. Nope, that didn't work. There you go. And now dispose of this where batteries are usually disposed of. And here I'm doing a test fit to see if the PCB will fit inside the battery shell without modification. Yeah, so I don't think you have to leave it this long. You can probably just cut it a little shorter, which is what I'm going to do right now. All right, we need you again. So this little metal bit we don't really need, so I'm just gonna go and cut it like so. Same one here. Again, you know, measure twice, cut once. So place it inside. As you can see, it doesn't exactly fit in there, so excuse me. So I think we don't even need this whole tab. We can just cut it right here. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be soldering these wires to these little points. All right, and then put these over to the side. We don't need them anymore. Okay, so now we have our PCB, and now we're gonna get this little battery cell ready. All right, so first things first, we're gonna need to take off all this stuff on it. Now we're gonna take the rest of this thing off. So take off the label, or take off the warning, I guess. Oh, that's the warranty sticker. Place it over there. Because what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to take off this little protection circuit board. Because the PCB we're reusing from our old battery already has that protection circuit built into it. As far as I know, at least. Now, you don't have to, you could just leave it in, but I find it's a very, very, very tight fit if you don't, like to the point where I'm scared to press it in because I might puncture the battery. So I recommend you take this part off, but it's optional, you don't have to. But in order to do so, we have to take off all these labels, all these stickers, all this Kapton tape. All right, so now we're left with basically the bare board, and we are going to peel this tape off because this tape is concealing the board, and we want access to that board so we can free it from the battery cell. I don't really know what to do with the PCB after you removed it. I assume you can probably reuse it for something else. we're going to be reusing these wires. But we gotta take this board off first. So we're gonna use our flush cutters to cut it off. Again, if you know how to desolder, feel free to. I don't. So because we're not reusing the PCB, we can cut as close as possible to said PCB and leave the metal tabs attached to the battery exposed as much as possible, as we'll need to solder a wire to each metal tab later on. So by cutting as close as possible to the PCB, you're just making your life easier in the future. Okay, one side is done, now the other side. That works. Okay, so now we have our brand new battery. And we're gonna connect this using these wires. So now here's where our soldering iron comes out. So, you know, red for positive, black for negative. There's no reason you couldn't swap it, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna keep it as is. So let me go ahead and clean my tip. Okay, and then, okay, first I'm gonna turn on a fan because you don't want to be breathing in solder smoke. So I'm opening a window and I'm gonna turn on a fan. So sorry for the noise, that's about to come in 3, 2, 1. Aim it towards the workstation. So if there's any solder fumes that, you know, come up, it gets blown away. Ideally, you'd want like a, I forgot what you call it. A fume extractor. That's the word I was looking for. Now be careful. You don't want to be touching the PCB with your bare hands as you're soldering. And another thing that I don't do in this video that you should do is tinning the tip of your soldering iron. Here it doesn't really make a big difference, but for the little more complex soldering, as you'll see later on in this video, pre-tinning the tip will help a lot and will make your life a lot easier. And now you're about to see why you don't touch the PCB with your bare hands right after soldering. And we desoldered, so now we can put, ow! Yeah, okay, this is hot. Be careful. We want to put it to the side because we don't really need it anymore. Alright, so now we have the wires. Now, we don't need this little connector, so we can just take our scissors and just cut it off. So like I said, so like, okay, 1, 2. Alright, we're good. Place that over there, we don't need that. So now this is where we start getting into the soldering section of the video. You'll notice that the footage looks different from the previous clips, and that's because I wasn't happy with how I soldered in that video, and so I reshot the video, and that's what you're gonna see right now. So here I'm tinning the tip of my soldering iron off camera because I clearly didn't check the angle, so sorry about that. But anyways, I'm placing some solder on the tip of my soldering iron, which will then be used to pre-tin the wires that are connected to the battery. And for anyone not too experienced with soldering right now, what I did was I placed some solder on the tip of my soldering iron, and I'm touching the wire to the blob of solder that's on the soldering iron, and then I'm touching my solder to the wire, which will then tin the wire. Something like that. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory if you watch the video, but yeah. And right now I'm cleaning the tip of my soldering iron, and then I'm going to remove some excess solder. Going back to clean again. Still cleaning. Removing excess. So you might be wondering, wait, you didn't show us how to solder the wire to the actual battery? And yes, you're correct, because I forgot to record it. So it's going to be a case of do as I say, not as I do, because what I'm about to show you in this video is wrong. So using footage from my original video, if it's wrong, how do you make it right? The proper way would have been to tin the wires, tin the soldering iron's tip, drop some flux onto the metal tabs, add some solder to said metal tabs, then solder the wire to the metal tabs. But in the video above, I didn't tin anything or use flux, hence my difficulty soldering to the metal tabs. So basically, use this part of the video as a reference, but not as a soldering guide. If you want a guide, keep watching or refer to the written guide. So, with your wires soldered to the battery cell, now we'll have to prep the PCB. First, you'll have to make sure the wires actually reach the PCB if you place it inside the battery shell. After making sure all the wires are the correct length, move on to step 2. Here I'm putting some no-clean flux from a marker pen onto the points I want to solder to, and then I'm cleaning the tip of my soldering iron for the millionth time. I don't think you have to clean it this often. So right here, I'm pre-tinning the soldering iron off camera because I didn't realize it was out of frame. As you can see from the smoke, I pre-tinned it. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the solder blob that's on the tip of my soldering iron, I'm going to touch the solder point on the PCB, and then I'm going to touch my solid solder to the blob, and it'll melt it onto the solder point. And now that we have one point done, we'll need to do the other. So here I'm cleaning the tip of my soldering iron, make sure it's nice and shiny. And here I'm going to pre-tin the tip of my soldering iron. Excuse my hair, but it's really just place some solder onto the tip of the soldering iron. And we're just going to repeat what we did at the first solder point. And with that, we are now ready to solder the battery to the PCB. So here I'm going to rotate the batteries around, and I'm going to make sure the wires are the correct length so they can actually reach the solder points. And now I'm going to take the solid solder and I'm going to pre-tin the tip of my soldering iron. And now we actually get to the soldering. So with my soldering iron tip pre-tinned, I'm going to touch the solder on the tip of my soldering iron to the wire, and then I'm going to touch the wire to the blob of solder we placed on our solder point, and that'll basically just melt the wire into the solder blob. And here I'm trying to reposition the wire, but I applied too much heat for too long and I accidentally moved the solder point. I tried to reheat the solder so I can move the solder point back to its original position, but I abandoned that idea and decided to just try again, which is clean my tip, re-tin the tip, if my hair will get out of the way, and then try moving it back into place. So I'm going to first desolder the wire, just so it's out of the way. And now I'm going to move the solder point back into its original position. And as usual, I'm going to abort mission, and instead I'm going to clean my soldering iron, and then I'm going to re-tin it. And with our soldering iron tip tinned, we are now ready to re-solder the wire back in. Alright, so touch the solder blob on the tip of the soldering iron to the wire, and have the wire touching the solder blob on the solder point. There you go, it's soldered. With one wire done, we're halfway there. Now to solder in the other wire, do exactly the same thing. And that's successfully soldered in. So I'm going to clean my soldering iron tip, And now I'm going to pull on the wires to make sure the solder joints are nice and good and everything feels good. So I'm going to grab my battery shell and I'm going to start making preparations to fit the battery cell and the PCB inside the shell. And I'll be using Kapton tape to cover up the PCB, like where the wire connects to the PCB. And after I'm done taping all the solder points, I'm going to transition back into the original video in 3, 2, 1. So now we're in the home stretch. We're basically just finishing up. Let me check. And we're going to try to keep this in there. If you try to just throw it in like right now, it's not going to work because it's too, well, the top slides in fine. You know, it's a little tight, but the bottom, it's being completely blocked by the amalgamation that we got here. So we got to cut the bottom off. Flush cutters, I highly recommend you get some. A tip, if you keep your thumb over it, I'm wearing safety glasses, by the way. Yes, safety glasses, my ass. I'm wearing glasses. So put your thumb over the plastic bits, so if a shard does come up, does fly up into your eye region, hit your thumb and not your eyes. Can I just snap it off? No, I can't. I don't think I can. Or can I? There you go. So that bottom is off, and now we place it like so. Alright, and then we're gonna tape down the PCB into the shell. Alright, I don't think we need to do the bottom or the top. Nope. It's pretty simple here. Ah! Okay. PSP. Where's the PSP? I just placed it. Oh, there it is. PSP. Into the thing. And you know what? I'm actually going to show you. Oh, fuck. No, that went in fine, I think. Yeah, it's fine. As you can see, it doesn't turn on, but if I take a charger, so we got power, plug it in like so. Oh, orange light's good. Turn it on. There you go. System settings, battery information, charge level 79%, power source external, battery status charging. We unplug it. There you go. And that's how you resell your PSP battery. Congratulations, you just saved a PCB from becoming e-waste. Now, dispose of this properly. Don't just toss in the trash can, and yeah, enjoy a new life breathed into your PSP. All right, that's it. I think I don't have anything else to say. Turn off the fan. Phew. All right, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it was helpful. And again, I'm open to criticism. If there's something I did that was very wrong in this video, don't don't hesitate to tell me. All right, and again, if you want to see the written guide, link will be in the description. All right, peace.